Hi, my name is Bethany, and today we're going to talk a little bit about communications here at MTI in Springfield. If you don't mind getting out your communications book, it's this book right here. It says Personal Development. And if you turn to chapter 6, which is located on page 115, we're going to talk a little bit about getting your message across in different communication styles. Communication is crucial in healthcare. We have to be able to professionally communicate with our physicians, with our fellow coworkers, and also the most important people is our patients. We have, as medical assistants, we have to question our patients and try to get as much information about their health as possible. And in order to do that, we need to make our patients feel comfortable and well heard. And how we do that is through proper and professional communication. If you look at the bottom of page 115, it gives an example of the first type of communication, which is better known as passive communication. And what does passive communication mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked that question because I'm going to tell you. So passive communication is when you use passive communication, you allow your rights to be violated because you fail to express honest feelings. Passive communicators attempt to avoid confrontation at all costs. So an example that it gives in the book is that let's pretend that we traveled somewhere and we asked for a window seat, but when we got on the plane, we received a boarding pass that didn't give us a window seat. It gave us a center seat. So if we were using passive communication as a style, we wouldn't point out the error. We would just simply sit in our center seat and not say a word. Okay, that's an example of passive communication. People who use passive style do not talk much. They seldom ask questions. They don't want to do those things because they don't want to rock the boat. And they feel that it is safer not to react than to stand up and be noticed. Okay? If you turn to page 116, it says typically a passive communicator doesn't express honest feelings, makes little or no eye contact, lets others make decisions, feels anxious, helpless, and manipulated, and apologizes frequently. Okay? I, in my own experiences, have worked with several coworkers who would probably fit this criteria. They don't like to lead if we were in groups. They typically don't want to be leaders. They don't want to be called on in class. In a work setting, I've had several coworkers where they apologize all the time. Even if they weren't doing something wrong, they just seem to apologize a lot. And now that I'm looking back on this chapter, I feel that those people would be classified as passive communicators. Okay? It says at the very bottom of that paragraph, it says, do not, however, mistake good manners for passivity. Sometimes it is the kind of thing to say, that's okay, go ahead of me. I can see that you're in a hurry. The context makes the difference. Okay? So, yes, it's good manners to offer your seat to an elderly person, to let somebody go ahead of you in the checkout lane if they only have like 2 items and you have 20. However, it's a complete other issue if they're being just passive and they obviously have the same amount of items, they have just as much disability to sit in a seat as an elderly person, okay? That is the difference between good manners and passive communication. The next one we're going to talk about is kind of the opposite of passive. It's aggressive communication. Okay, aggressive communication is the opposite of passive. An aggressive communicator sends strong feelings in a vigorous manner without regard to the rights and feelings of others. So it kind of reminds me of someone that's like in your face. If they have an opinion, they're going to express it. They don't care who hears it, who's offended by it, any of that. Okay? So, for example, upon ordering a rare steak and receiving one that is well done, the aggressive communicator might say, "I ordered a rare steak, not a piece of shoe leather. Bring me what I ordered and do it fast." Okay? Kind of see how that's aggressive in your face. Okay? An aggressive communicator's voice is often loud and exaggerated. Gestures accompany the message. The aggressive communicator is defensive, fault-finding, and judgmental. Okay? This style of communication definitely allows you to communicate your feelings, but steps on the rights and feelings of others in the process. Okay? So, granted, I get aggressive communicators want their opinions heard, and it's good sometimes to be a leader, but we have to find that delicate balance, right? We don't want to offend everybody that we talk to. If you look at the bottom of page 116, it gives some examples of what an aggressive communicator will do. So they make decisions for others, makes others feel uncomfortable, is brutally honest, participates in a win-lose situation only when it's possible to win, shows impatience, glares and stares at others, is direct and forceful, and humiliates others. I don't know about you all. I can kind of relate to some family members that I have that are kind of on borderline of aggressive communicators. But that also statement, the last one, humiliates others, I kind of see that as a bully. So that's why if you are an aggressive communicator, you might have to reevaluate how you were performing that style of communication, right? Because, like I said, our patients are our most important factor in healthcare, and we want them to feel comfortable. How comfortable are they going to be if you're asking them questions about their health assertively and making judgments and eye rolling and asking them why are they not doing it this way? Okay. The next type or style, if you look on page 117, is assertive communication. What is assertive communication? It sounds very similar to aggressive communication. Well, assertive communication is a more positive and effective communication style than the passive or aggressive style. Assertive communication is the ability to express one's feelings and assert one's rights while respecting the feelings and rights of others. Assertive communication is appropriately direct, open, and honest, and clarifies one's needs to the other person. So I kind of feel like assertive is kind of the combo. It's kind of like you took a little bit of passive, a little bit of aggressive, put it all together, and you ended up being assertive. Okay? So it's kind of like just the perfect combination of both passive and aggressiveness. If you look down at the bottom of page 117, it talks about what assertive communicators might typically do. So if you are an assertive communicator, which I feel like most are, you are direct and self-respecting, demonstrates a willingness to negotiate, listen, and compromise. Compromise is key no matter where you are. If it's in your personal or professional life, compromise is always key to finding happiness in anything. Chooses to make decisions, makes others feel valued and respected, converts win-lose situations to win-win solutions, feels confident and task-oriented, demonstrates a concern for the feelings and rights of others. And I can't honestly say that is like a huge thing in healthcare. You are a healthcare provider, your patients always come first, and we always are thinking about the feelings and rights of others when you're in healthcare. All right. If you turn to page 118, it talks a little bit about some nonverbal indicators. Okay, so if you are using assertive communication, which most do, is not only what you say, but also how you say it. Okay, I went to a seminar one time, and body language, how your facial expressions react. You know, nowadays with the pandemic, we're wearing masks, so we're only seeing the tops of our eyes, correct? However, if you're anything like me, I say a lot through my eyes. I don't mean to, but I do. And so as healthcare professionals, we have to really watch ourselves and figure out, okay, I'm trying to be non-judgmental. I'm trying to present myself in an assertive manner with my patients, okay? So in order to do that, I might be thinking something judgy. I might be thinking the complete opposite of how I'm portraying my communication style. However, I don't want the patient to read that from my facial expressions, right? We have nonverbal indicators that tell others how we're communicating. So remember, nonverbal communication is very strong and may overshadow the verbal message. Here are some guidelines for the assertive communicator. Establish good eye contact with the receiver of your messages. Do not stare, just look comfortably into the receiver's eyes. Okay, so if you're rooming your patient, you bring them back into the exam room and you're getting ready to ask them questions. Okay, obviously you want to maintain good eye contact. Now, you don't want to be like staring them down, right? That would freak anybody out. But you also, on the flip side of that, don't want to be like when they're telling you their health history or they're telling you what they're in the office for, you don't want to be just staring at the wall, staring at the ceiling, okay? What do you think the patient's going to think if you're doing that? They're probably going to think, well, they're not listening to me. They don't care about my health. Why are they even asking me these questions if they're not even going to care what I'm saying? All right? If you're thinking about what the patient's thinking when you're staring at them like this, okay, they're probably going to get creeped out, and they're going to think, obviously, I read this in a medical journal somewhere, but they're also going to think that you're very intense, okay, and if you're very intense like that, it's very off-putting, and it's going to make the patient uncomfortable, and when patients are uncomfortable, they don't want to tell us things that we need to know, okay? The next one is use appropriate gestures to support your message. Do not use threatening gestures or those that could be interpreted as aggressive. Okay. I have seen coworkers do this where they're talking to a patient and they're obviously a little perturbed about the content of the conversation, and they find themselves doing this with their pen or their hand if they're talking. What do you think that relays to patients? Well, me personally, looking at this, if I had a medical assistant kind of jabbing their hands or messing with their pen, they're being very aggressive, right? It's the aggressive style of communication. Right? And that might be very off-putting to patients. They're not going to feel comfortable with their medical assistant and their provider. Okay, what if I'm the medical assistant, I roomed a patient, I'm sitting in the chair, and I'm listening to the patient, I've got good eye contact, but I'm going like this. Being very fidgety, okay? And also, I know I'm not thinking this, and I'm not intentionally trying to do this. However, as a patient, if I see a medical assistant doing this, I'm going to think that I'm boring them, that they're fidgety, they want to be somewhere else. They're not listening to what I'm saying. They want to be anywhere but where I am at as the patient, okay? The next one is stand or sit erect, but not stiff. Position yourself so that you and the receiver on the same eye level, okay? This is crucial when you are dealing with children, okay? When you are dealing with children, it's always best to be at their eye level, right? Imagine when you were a kid and you had to deal with an adult and they were just towering over you and looking down on you, okay? It's very off-putting, okay? So it's best if you are dealing with a child patient, you need to squat down to their level, make good eye contact, and obviously you need to be nice and ask them questions, right? Because they're the patient, all right? If you are with an adult and you are sitting in a chair or standing, okay? If you are sitting in a chair or standing, you want to be in a good position. You don't want to be like straight like this, all right? Because it makes them feel like you're uncomfortable with this whole situation. And then if the patient is telling you something about their health or why they're there and you're standing all straight and freaking out, the patient's going to be like, oh my gosh, is this really bad? Like they're taking this really bad, okay? Oh, there might be something majorly wrong with me. The other thing you don't want to do is if you're standing or sitting, you don't want to be all relaxed. You don't want to be like, oh. Like if I'm in a room with a patient and they're telling me about why they're there today, and then I'm sitting over there at my computer and I'm like, what do you think that patient's going to think? They're going to think that I don't care why they're there. They're going to think that I just want to go home and take a nap, okay? And that is definitely not something we want to convey to our patients. The next one is lean or move slightly toward the receiver. Once again, everybody has a personal bubble, okay? So obviously you don't want to be way far away from them and talking to them, but you want to be in a good distance, okay? Obviously with COVID, that's changed. Now we have to be 6 feet apart. But before COVID, and hopefully after we get all this ahead of us, we will be able to have interactions with people. And like I said, you want to be rather close to them. Now I'm not saying sitting on their lap or right up in their business, but you want to be in their good personal space because just in case they need some consolement or they want to know that you're engaged. Sometimes body language is a huge factor, okay? It's a nonverbal indicator. But like I was saying, everybody has a personal bubble. So you have to be very careful about where you position yourself, okay? Because if you have a patient that has a big, wide personal bubble and you get in that bubble, it's going to make them extremely uncomfortable and they're not going to want to tell you or share any of their healthcare information. Okay?